Welcome. Hopefully everyone can see and hear me well. You can let me know in the chat. Everything good? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Again, good morning and welcome. My name is Dr. Iris Wagstaff, and I am a STEM program director at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, or AAAS. We co-host the annual Emerging Researchers National Conference in STEM, or ERN Conference, every year, and we are excited about this year's ERN Conference, and just giving you some tips and some advice on how you can prepare an excellent poster presentation for those that have been accepted to present at this year's meeting. So just a little bit about AAAS, and then we will get into the presentation today. So the mission of AAAS is simple, but it's huge, and that is to advance science, engineering, and innovation throughout the world for the benefit of all people. And we accomplish this mission through several programs and initiatives, mainly focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of these programs include our STEM Opportunity Alliance, our Entry Point, which supports students in STEM with disabilities, our Sea Change initiative, which focuses on change at the faculty and institutional level, as well as our L'Oreal USA Fellowships for Women in Science. To learn more about these opportunities, feel free to visit our AAAS website. If you're interested in career opportunities, feel free to visit our Science Careers website. We are celebrating 175 years. So the AAAS is the oldest and largest general scientific association in the world. We have about 200,000 members worldwide, and we were founded in the 1800s. So definitely we encourage you to join the AAAS, as well as your STEM disciplinary organizations. I'm a huge proponent of being a member, an engaged member of whatever it is your professional STEM society is. I am a 30-year member of the American Chemical Society, and also a 30-year member of the National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. We will also be highlighting professional STEM societies at this year's ERN Conference. So a little bit about the ERN Conference. If you've never been to the ERN Conference, it is funded by a National Science Foundation grant from the HBCU Universities program. And the goals and objectives are really to prepare a diverse cadre of students, you all, for global STEM careers, to really give you an opportunity to hone your science communication skills, and also an opportunity to engage in professional development and really build community and sense of belonging in STEM. This year's conference will be held just in about 3 weeks, from March 14th to the 16th in Washington, D.C. So before we get started with the awesome speaker today, I just really like to acknowledge my awesome team: Neela White, Allison Gonzalez, Claire Malloy, Janice Lim, and our external evaluator, Gabby Haynes. So now I have the pleasure of passing it on to our awesome speaker for the day. She's been giving these amazing webinars and tips to really help you all prepare to give your research presentations. Dr. Marianne Leung is the president and founder of Sustainable Horizons Institute, and I will pass it over to her.
Okay, thank you so much, Iris.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, and then I'll just share mine on my side. Great. All right. Give me 1 second to get set up here. Let's see. Okay, so I think hopefully you can see my screen now? Okay, good, great. All right, well, thank you so much for Iris for that lovely introduction and for inviting me to do this webinar. I'm really happy to be here and to talk to you guys about how to create great posters and deliver an excellent poster presentation. So just to go over a couple real brief administrative details. So this webinar is scheduled to be 60 minutes. That includes time for Q&A. And really, I'm fine with you asking questions throughout the webinar, so you don't have to wait to the end. So if you have a question, just feel free to raise your hand or use the chat window to submit a question. And then we'll kind of get started. So first of all, I want to do a poll. So you can go to this link that I have listed on this sheet, or else you can also text the text on there to join this poll. But I'm going to bring it up here on my screen so I could just get a little bit of background information about you guys, and you can learn about each other as far as who is on here. And so I'm just going to give you a minute to get logged in. But the first question is, how are you feeling today? You know, just this is for you to kind of get used to using this poll tool. You can just, once you log in, either on the website listed here or by text, you can just type in a response and it'll come up on the screen. We'll see this live in real time. And yeah, so go ahead and log into the poll. And then if you want to enter a phrase, I suggest that you use it with dashes in between and no spaces. Otherwise, it's going to create a word cloud and it'll keep the words together if you put dashes. Okay, great. I see some people are logged in and getting answers. So we've got great, excited, tired, good, very nice. Okay, keep going. So we got a lot of people that are great. I'm happy to see that. Wonderful. Uh-oh, some stressed people. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully this will give you a little bit of break. And if you're stressed about the conference, then you'll hopefully learn some really great tools to help you be prepared and whatnot. So very good. Thank you all so much for participating in this poll. There'll be a few more poll questions now, and then a couple more later on throughout the webinar. So very good. Okay, optimistic. I like the sound of that. Sorry, I see someone sick. Ambitious, yay. Great for that. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next question. And this is, who is your favorite scientist, engineer, mathematician, or tech geek? So this, of course, ERN covers all areas of STEM. So we've got people here probably from lots of different backgrounds. Just kind of curious. Do you have a favorite scientist, engineer, mathematician, or tech geek? Oh, Katherine Johnson. That's a great choice. I love that. All right. Einstein. We've got in there Musk. Your sister. That's great. I like that. Very nice. Emily someone. So you see they don't, if you hyphenate it, I think it keeps the words together, but otherwise they get separated. So it's a little hard to see if you're entering a first name and last name. But we've got some Einstein, Johnson, Rosalind, Franklin, Emmy, Bassler. Your professor, great. I like to hear that. Okay. All right, very good. Give you another Turing. Okay, that's one of my favorite. I have a computer science background, so I'm there with you. Oh, good. There we go. Now we've got Katherine Johnson with a hyphen in there, and Natalie Arnott. Very good. Musk, Bassler, Emmy. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your favorite scientists, mathematicians, and engineers and tech people. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next question, which is to just find out your academic status currently. So where are you? Probably there's a lot of students here, but maybe there's some other professionals or faculty as well. Just getting curious to find out what academic status you are at right now. Of course, ERN will have people from, I think, all different academic statuses. And it's just nice to see here, okay? So it looks like so far we have mostly undergrads, but in a very close second is doctoral students, followed by masters, and then people who are in other categories as well. Okay, very good, thank you. Now, what are your plans after you graduate? Whatever program you're going to be in now, you planning on, if you're an undergrad, continuing on to grad school, or if you're a master's, maybe going on to PhD, get a job in different sectors, get a postdoc. These are all common things. And of course, there's lots of other ways to go. You could go to work for a nonprofit, which is what I am doing now. I work at a nonprofit organization. Iris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Marianne, it may be your mic, but there's a little static, maybe back adjust a little bit. Just sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Let me see what I can do. So there's static, or is there background noise?
A little static, maybe close. It's getting a little better. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Is it better now, or should I try to make adjustments? Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, good. All right, so look at that. We have a lot of people who are planning to go to graduate school, some for postdocs, and then lots of people going into industry. Very nice. So there's lots of different pathways for you, and lots of opportunities. So hopefully you'll learn more about at the conference. Okay, so one more question here, which is, have you, actually I have a couple more questions. Have you ever given a poster presentation at any conference at all? So this is no wrong answers. This is just giving me an idea of your experience level out there, so we can kind of talk to that. So, okay, good. So lots of people have given posters at some kind of conference before. So that's good to know. Hopefully you'll pick up a lot of extra tips here to help you improve on that. And if you have given a poster, that's fabulous. Don't worry, you'll learn lots more things here as well. Next question is, are you planning on giving a poster at ERN? So this webinar is open to people regardless if you're attending ERN, and of course, regardless of whether you're actually presenting. So just curious how many of you are planning on presenting at ERN. And looks like the majority of you are so far. Oops, now we're changing things around. It's fun to watch the real-time polls as they move around, but very nice. Okay, so lots of people planning on presenting at ERN. And then, okay, yeah, so that is my last question for right now. Thank you so much for participating in the poll. I'm ready to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I'm bringing up my slides again. And here is an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So across the top, you can see all of the topics. So first of all, we're going to talk why you should even consider giving a poster. So many of you have already given poster presentations. Maybe you know, maybe you'll learn some other reasons why it's really important to do that. We're also going to go over judging criteria. We'll talk about general judging criteria as well as specific criteria at ERN. We'll talk about how to prepare your actual poster, because it's a physical thing. So how to prepare that poster, and then how to prepare yourself so you're ready to go on and present, which is the next topic we'll talk about, is how to actually give your presentation. And then we'll talk about how to manage a discussion when you're working with people who are, there to watch your poster. That's one of the really great things about a poster session, in my opinion, is it can be very, kind of personal, and you can develop a real dialogue with the people watching your poster. Okay, so the first topic, as you can see here on the bottom, why give a poster presentation? So maybe you already know many of these reasons, but first of all, hopefully you've been working and having a lot of fun doing some research, and you probably, the really cool thing about doing research is you're exploring questions that have never been answered. So you're discovering things. And so you might want to share with the rest of the world what you discovered, what you learned during your research. Of course, hopefully you'll be communicating the excitement of that you have for your research. And at the same time, you can demonstrate what you've learned, all the skills that you've been able to develop, and show, that to everyone else. Something else that a lot of people don't think about, which I think is really nice, and one of the really big benefits of doing a poster, is that you can learn from other people. So as you tell them about your research, you'll learn things from them, because they'll probably have maybe suggestions or questions that might lead you to more answers about what you're doing. And of course, last but not least, you have the opportunity to win prizes or awards. So almost every time there's a poster session, there's usually prizes. And of course, in many cases, they're cash prizes, which is really nice. And even more importantly is the recognition that you can that you'll get from winning a prize, and that will add to your CV or resume quite a bit. So in terms of the judging criteria, so the things that you typically get judged on in your poster, believe it or not, it's in the abstract. So when you get to the conference and they're giving you a poster, you probably forgot about this abstract you wrote. That's part of the judging criteria. So hopefully by now, of course, if you're going to earn, you've already submitted your abstracts, and you did a good enough job to get accepted, but your abstract is definitely going to be part of the judging criteria, as well as how well you state the problem. So in STEM, you're solving some kind of scientific problem, exploring some questions, some hypotheses. So what is that you're trying to understand or discover? So your statement of that problem is very important. How you went about it, or your methodology, how you went about, trying to answer those questions, what results you received, what did you learn, what kind of things do you not know yet, what is the future work that is still needed, and then of course your actual presentation and response to questions will all be part of the judging criteria. So now to talk a little bit about how to prepare your poster, I'm gonna step back a little bit and talk about just like how, first of all, you organize your ideas for your particular audience. So what does that mean? It means you have to understand who is your audience, who's likely to be there and be listening to your poster presentation and asking you questions. And more importantly, what do they know and what do they not know? So that's also super important. It's something that I think a lot of people I see don't really think about, like who you're presenting to, what do they know, what do they don't know, because very often we forget that when we're doing our research and we're learning things, even though we might not think we know that much, especially if you're young in your academic career, you actually know a lot more about your research than probably anyone, except maybe your research advisor who's out there in the audience. And so you have to think about making sure that you give them the background so that they can understand what you did, and the really important benefits and excitement about your discoveries. So I suggest that you organize your presentation in the kind of the order that at least including all the things that I've listed here on this slide. So you want to start out with an overview or a motivation, like why. So first of all, you have to catch people's attention and let them know why they should care about your work and why they should continue listening. You want to set the stage by providing a background for your work. Talk about your methods, your results, your discussion, which is your interpretation of the results, future work, and then of course you always want to acknowledge your collaborators and your funders. So continuing on about how to present prepare your poster and organizing your thoughts and trying to figure out how to present what your results are. Think about telling a story. So you're going to have the opportunity to be in front of people and tell a story about your work. And what is it about good storytelling? Well, storytelling, there's always the beginning and end. There's actors, the people involved in it. Sometimes there's twists and turns. And then maybe there's questions, or maybe like in a lot of stories we see, there's like a moral of the story, or what did you learn? What did you discover? So those are all good components of good storytelling. And so you want to think about your particular problem in this context. And so a little tip about telling a scientific story, and that is, that's the funny thing about science is, as you definitely explore more and do more research and get further on in your academic career, there's kind of a saying that we have, which is you learn more and more about less and less. So you learn a lot, but you get very focused in on a particular area, not only a particular area, a particular subdiscipline, a particular problem, and you learn a lot about that particular problem. And so what does that do? That presents a challenge for us, because when you're talking to someone else who isn't that deeply steeped, sometimes you go to technical conferences and you're going to find lots of people that are as deeply steeped or pretty closely deeply steeped into those technical details as you. But many times you go to conferences and not everyone is as deeply steeped in those technical details. So that creates a challenge for you to balance, you know, sharing that kind of what you really discovered is, of course, embedded in all those details. But so you want to be able to share that, but you have to be able to share it in a way that's general enough for people to understand what you're talking about. So people who don't have all that background. So that's a real art when you're in STEM, that will really pay off if you learn how to kind of master this art of balancing, you know, getting down to those technical details with being able to reach your audience in a way that they can understand and really appreciate the work that you've done. So yeah, so that's the real tip here. If you really learn how to do this, and it is an art, it'll take some time, but if you invest the time in this, I promise you it'll pay off. Okay, so now just to summarize, you want to tell a story about what you did. You want to know your audience so that you can pitch it appropriately, kind of getting an idea of what people do and don't know. You want to tell a very nice little well-crafted story in an organized way so that people can follow you. And you want to balance this idea of giving people the big picture and the motivation and why it's really important with some of the really cool technical details of what you were able to accomplish. Okay, so I'm going to go back to a quick poll question or two to get some of your feedback here. And you can go use the same login that you had before for the poll. Let me make this big. And I'm just wondering what your discipline is. Your you know, within STEM, there's broad areas. So I've broad categories here of biology, ecology, environmental, earth sciences, the chemical sciences, chemistry, physics, or what we often call the physical sciences, science and mathematics, education, and then of course there's the social, behavioral, and economic sciences. So just curious. Of course, all of these disciplines are represented at ERN, and so just see, yeah. So it looks like we have a lot in the biological and earth sciences, and close second is that kind of the physical sciences, and we also have some science and math education people as well. Okay, great, very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Okay, bouncing around a little bit still, okay. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next question. So do you think that ERN is a technical conference focused on a specific subdiscipline, or is it more general, you know, like covers a lot of different topics? So what I mean here, so myself, my degree is in chemistry, and within chemistry, I'm a physical chemist, and within physical chemistry, I'm a computational chemist. So a specific subdiscipline would be computational chemistry. So that's an example of whether or not it's a very specific subdiscipline. So And it looks like we have a unanimous agreement that ERN is not focused on a specific subdiscipline. And of course, that is correct, because as you could see, it covers all different kinds of areas of STEM. So what does that tell us? It tells us something important about who you can expect to be there when you come to your poster session. So in theory, when you do your poster presentation, there's going to be people from potentially, like me, a computational chemist. There could be a biologist there, or an ecologist, or a mathematician, you know. So there could be people from not my subdiscipline, but completely different fields. And so you have to be prepared to be able to talk with someone from different fields. Now, granted, one thing you probably kind of can assume is that, you know, most people are going to be in STEM, right? So they'll have a STEM background, but maybe not that very specific one in your particular subdiscipline. So you want to prepare yourself in that way. So I'm going to pause for a moment, see if there's any questions. I know there's things in the chat, but I haven't been monitoring them. Are there any questions in the chat we need to address? Let's see. Or if anyone has questions, they want to raise their hand or come off mute and ask a question. No? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue then. All right. All right, so now we're moving on into the actual kind of more of what I described, the mechanics of creating your poster, and that is actually, you know, creating the actual poster. So hopefully we talked about how to kind of approach your poster, what you want, kind of wanting to sell a story, and kind of organizing, giving you an organized way to kind of present the information about your research. So here we're going to get into actually creating the poster. So recommend you use professional software and templates. There's lots available out there. And, you know, I encourage you to be creative, but also to be professional. So don't have it too crazy. Don't have it too crowded or too many, like lots of different colors or distracting things. I do recommend that you use color or other things like bold or italics to highlight things, but you want to be careful about not using too much so it becomes too distracting. I recommend that you always have a title, usually right up at the top, nice and big. And with your title, you want to include your name, your institution, and your collaborators on the poster. You definitely would, you know, depending on what field you're in, you may want to include equations or text, but you want to keep those to a minimum, and absolutely try to include graphs, charts, images, other things, and be sure, of course, to run a spell checker so you don't have any errors in your spelling. Those are all really important things about creating your actual poster. So there's another concept that I want to introduce, and that is called chunking, and it's a way to organize your thoughts. So there is some cognitive research that tells us that basically that humans don't have very good memories, and they can only remember about 5 to 7 things at any one time. And it's really interesting. So it's usually like the most recent or the very first things that they heard. So there's lots of research here, and welcome you to go out and read about that. But what's important, the take-home message, is you want to chunk your information. So probably in the course of your poster presentation, you're going to talk about more than 5 or 7 things, but you want to chunk them so you organize so that at any one time you're only talking about 5 to 7 things. And that translates to, you see on the slide, I have, you know, 5 bullets here. So I don't have more than 5, or, you know, I have somewhere between 5 and 7. So you don't want to have too much at one time that you're throwing at people. Otherwise, they're just not going to remember it, and it's going to kind of become information overload. And then what you do is you create these little chunks or nuggets of information, and then you create a logical flow between them so that in the end, it translates to a story that makes sense. I also suggest using what I call signposts, and those are kind of like visual cues and auditory cues to people so that they can follow that logical thought process for you. So I'll show you an example. I actually have used some signposts in this already. You may or may not have noticed them, and I'll point it out the next time I have one on my screen. So also in terms of what to include on your poster, you want to make sure the biggest mistake that I see in poster presentations is that you cram too much text and it's too small, so it can't be readable. So remember, it's going to be, while it's large, there's a format, it's usually 4 by 3 feet, something like that. Someone's going to be standing quite a ways away, so they need to be able to read it. So I suggest nothing smaller than 16 points. And actually, I almost would recommend even larger than that. I would say definitely not smaller than 16, but if you can, stay at larger than that. Keep your graphics simple. Unless, of course, it's part of your story, is that there's some very, very complicated process. If you're doing something where you have a very complicated drawing or schematic, I suggest that you use techniques to present the big picture, which is all that complications, but then zoom in on particular parts so that are a little more easy to understand. We suggest using what we call cartoons or illustrations, or some kind of ways to get a concept across, or use analogies. Those are all really great techniques. And then, of course, you want to combine these various ways to prepare a poster: graphics, charts, text, drawings, all these kinds of things, because that way you can appeal to a lot of different learning styles. You may be familiar that there's been a lot of research on learning styles. Some people are more visually oriented, or more auditorily oriented, or kinetically. So the more kind of modalities that you use, the more likely you're going to reach a broader audience. Okay, so now I'm going to go over what I call the anatomy of a good poster. And so we'll talk about the components of the actual poster and why each is important. So the first thing, I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that you want to have an overview or provide a motivation. So an overview is tell them what you're going to tell them. So here's, on a big high level, what we're going to cover in this poster presentation. And in that, you should also motivate people in terms of why they should care. The motivation typically in STEM is the real world application. Even if you're in mathematics and you're doing a lot of theoretical work, there's got to be some real reason why the mathematics is important. So you want to provide a motivation. Maybe you're in chemistry and you're trying to synthesize a particular, protein that is going to help cure cancer. Something, whatever the reason why the work is important to everyday human life is a very good way to motivate the work. So the background is typically accomplished through your literature research or your literature search, and that is what other people have already done in this field, and you place a context for your work. So within your field, people have discovered that this particular drug is really useful for this disease, but there's a shortcoming, and that shortcoming is the area that you're trying to discover or research. Or maybe you're just trying to come up with a better way to produce, to synthesize the drug. So that's kind of the background. You always want to demonstrate your knowledge of the field in general and place your work within the context of what other people have done. The methods or the procedures, it's actually what did you do? I mixed this, these two fluids together to create a chemical reaction or whatnot. So it's the actual methodology or the procedures that you followed to create, to investigate your research. And then, of course, there's your results, and that's what you discovered. So what did you learn? What happened? You had a hypothesis. You thought something was going to be true. You set out to try to prove it. And what did you find? That's your results. Those are typically it depends on the field, of course, but very often the results are presented as graphs, or maybe they're images from from different, instruments that you use to measure things. And then the discussion portion is your interpretation of those results. So what does this mean? So the test turned out that, the spectra was here. Well, what does it mean that the spectra is in this area, not another area, or whatnot? So it's your interpretation. It's your, it's a lot of the intellectual work that you did as part of the research. And then, of course, you want to have a summary, which is you tell them what you told them. So again, back to that 5 to 7 rule, people don't have very good memories. So you start out by telling them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then at the end, you tell them what you told them. So you summarize again. And that's super important. It helps people to remember and helps them to have your discussion to have a much more lasting impact on people. And then, of course, you definitely want to make sure that you do not omit talking about future work. That's another common mistake that I see, is people don't talk about future work. So it also means that you have to kind of think about it and talk with your advisor or other collaborators and think about, well, what are the questions we still don't have answers to, and why are those questions important? So those are really, really important things about the future work. And I would say that anyone who wins a Poster Prize award, they're definitely going to talk about future work as well. And maybe that will be the kind of thing that will keep you from getting an award. And last but not least, you want to make sure you acknowledge who helped with the work, who your collaborators are, of course, who funded the work, all of the people who helped make the work happen. That's a very important aspect. So now I have a couple examples of poster formats. So here are just, you can do it any number of ways. Like I say, I encourage you to, be creative, but there are kind of 3 different formats that I'm just suggesting. One is the first one, numbered 1, is kind of a columnar format. And then notice that there are these big titles here that stand out. And of course, in between here, presumably this is just a mock-up. There would be something in between here. There would probably be text and whatnot. These are what I call signposts as well. So there's one where there's just 3 columns. Here's essentially three columns that are subdivided into smaller groups. And then there's one with kind of no visual, still has columns, but no visual clues on the background of that. So I'm going to do a quick poll again to see what you guys think about those formats, and go on to the next question, which is, which of the example styles do you like the best? 1, 2, or 3? And there's no right answer, just kind of curious for you all to think about different potential formats for your posters. So very good. All right, looks like we have a lot of people interested in the second one. So that one is got most interest so far, still winning. Number 2. All right. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my slides and continue on. Again, I encourage you, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute and ask a question while I'm presenting. I actually can't see the chat, so someone would need to let me know if there's a question out there. So now we're going to move on to preparing yourself. So notice at the bottom of the screen here, there's these chevrons, and this is what I used at the very beginning to overview the topics. And here at the bottom, on not every slide, but periodically throughout the presentation, I'm repeating this graphic, and then I'm highlighting a particular area. So this is an example of what I call a signpost. And they're really helpful because it lets people know, keep the big picture in mind. Here are the overall topics, and here's where we are now. So that's where it's kind of like a signpost saying, you know, I'm taking you on this journey, and this is where we are right now, and this is what's coming up. So anyways, so the next part is going on to talking about preparing yourself for your presentation. And the first really good suggestion I have is practice, practice, practice. Believe it or not, it really does help if you practice in advance. I suggest you practice with your peers, as well as other people, you know, who don't know your research. So people who are, you know, like you saw, if you're going to ERN, there, you know, I'm a chemist, it could be, I have a biologist. So you want to get people who are going to be representative of who you might expect to find at the conference where you're going to be presenting. And have them ask you questions and have them test you to see, did you explain that in a way that's understandable to someone else in another field? So it also helps you just to practice, like physically getting the words out of your mouth. They will flow a lot more easily at the time of your presentation if you've had a little bit of practice. Of course, another way to prepare yourself is make sure you know what you're talking about. You can prepare yourself for questions, again, thinking up of what things people might ask you, or more importantly, through the practice sessions, having people ask you actual questions. And then the last suggestion is what I call kind of prepare to dance on your feet. And that is that as much as you prepare and as many people kind of ask you questions in advance, it's almost always going to be the case that someone is going to ask you a question that you hadn't heard of or hadn't thought of, or maybe coming from a totally different perspective that you hadn't considered, which I think is a really good thing because it helps you to open up and see things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. And what's really great about diversity in STEM is that you get a lot of different perspectives. So you just want to be okay with the fact that maybe you don't know the answer and something comes across. So that's kind of learning and developing the poise to just take it as it comes. So going on to other things. So you want to make sure you look the part when you are presenting your poster, and that includes what you look like, you know, the attire that you wear. So I've included lots of things here in terms of what you should not wear: sandals, hard tops, t-shirts. So you want to look professional. So STEM, it depends on the field. So some fields vary, but in general, I would say I used to work in industry as well. So I kind of know the corporate world. So in general, STEM is much more friendly, more casual, but you still have to be professional within the scientific discipline. So hopefully someone can help you. If you don't already know, I encourage you to ask one of your mentors about what is appropriate attire for your field. When you're presenting, of course, making sure that you're standing up straight, you're not like fidgeting and playing with your hair or doing things like that. Those are all important things that will help you come across and feel more confident when you're giving your presentation. So you want to look the part, you want to speak the part, and that means that when you talk, you want to make sure you're loud and clear and you're confident. I know sometimes when you're early in your academic career, you don't feel confident, but you can still project confidence even though you're shaking underneath by just speaking loudly and clearly and standing up straight. These are all tools that will help you come across very well and deliver a really good presentation. And of course, making sure that you avoid distracting things as well is important. So speak the part, look the part, connect with your audience, make eye contact, you know, ask questions. Another thing, another technique that a lot of people don't utilize is asking questions of the people of your audience, you know, and that's a technique that's also very useful, as well as, you know, common courtesy and talking to the audience, not your poster. Although you do want to engage with your poster, like pointing out different parts of the poster as well. And hopefully you've laid it out in a logical way. You've kind of logically follow through and tell your story. So in summary, for the checklist here for preparing yourself, you kind of want to set your stage and prepare yourself ahead of time, both by, knowing what you're going to say and being preparing yourself in other ways. If it's helpful, sometimes it's nice to go and check out the space. I personally like to see the space that I'm going to be in. So you, of course, will go in advance and put your poster up on the poster board, so you can just check out the space and feel comfortable in that space. Get ready to prepare yourself. Kind of quote, know your lines, know what you're going to say. And if you have a fear of public speaking, do your best to try to overcome that. Right before your talk, you can just breathe slowly. That will actually, there's a physical reaction there that will slow down your heart rate and get you more calm. You can use visualizations to help you try to feel relaxed, visualize yourself as relaxed and giving an excellent presentation, and do any other kind of affirmations that might be helpful to you to help you feel confident and relaxed. Other things you can do is just standing up and having yourself standing with good posture will actually, it has so many different benefits because it opens you up so that you can project more clearly, and it makes you appear more kind of taller and more confident. Make sure that you try to be as relaxed as you can and be yourself and take your time. Talk to your audience, not your poster, although you want to reference your poster. And another thing that is a common mistake is they want to make sure you don't just drift off at the end. End with a crescendo. Say something. Have a nice thing that you have planned out, or you just say at the very end, even if that's thanking people. So kind of summary. Be personable and establish a rapport with the group. That's the really huge benefit of poster presentations. Usually it's a small group and you're kind of sometimes even just one-on-one. So you can establish that rapport and prepare yourself for doing that. Now moving on to the discussion part and taking questions. So it might be a little bit unintuitive, but what I find for a lot of people, when you get questions, the first thing they do is they start talking. But actually, I suggest that you don't just jump right into talking. You listen, make sure that you've heard the questions appropriately. And it's also an extremely good technique to repeat back the question, so you make sure what you heard is what the person intended in terms of the question. So you want to make sure you're answering the question that they're really asking as best as possible. Reply with confidence, because what you know is what you know. So why shouldn't you be confident about that? Take your time. Don't feel like you have to rush through an answer. And remember that they probably don't know as much as you know about your particular research project. Of course, how could they know? You're the one who did the work. And if someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, it's absolutely 100% fine, not only fine, but the right thing to do is say, I don't know the answer. That is a great question. I'm going to go and research that for you and get back to you, because you don't want to just make up an answer if you don't know it. And and again, that's the whole point of doing poster presentations, is you get to learn about things and listen to other people's interesting questions, and that might lead you down a whole new area of discovery. So here's a few examples of posters. So again, like I say, images and analogies go a long ways. There's tons of content available through the internet. Of course, if you grab content from the internet, be sure you're not infringing on any copyrights, and you give appropriate credit to wherever the source is that you got some information. Here's an example of a poster I did a long time ago, but just thought I would throw it out there for you. You can see I have a title across the top, my name, my PhD advisor, the school I was at, the department I was in, starting out kind of the background, giving background about what this quote BEC or Bose-Einstein condensate is that I studied, using a little combination of text and images, some equations. So my work is very mathematical. So I had to include at least the equation that we were solving, and some illustrations or some ideas of what happens with the experiments that we were trying to simulate. So what I did was computational science. So we were simulating some things. So I started out talking about the mathematics behind it, and then the experiments that the experimentals run. And then I went into talking about the computer simulations I did and the results. So here are results. And then there's discussion of what this all means and how it was accomplished. Okay, so again, any questions from anyone? No? A quiet group today. All right, so I am going to go in with a few final things about specifically for the ERN conference. So there are poster presentation guidelines, and they are that, first of all, you have to make sure you arrive at least 15 minutes early. It's really recommended that you set up your poster first thing in the morning, and then you come at least 15 minutes early so you're ready to be at your poster and ready to begin. You should plan on using 10 minutes to give your poster presentation, and that includes 5 minutes for you to present, and then 2 minutes for Q&A from the judges, and then 2 minutes to transition to your next presentation. So your posters will be physically mounted on a big giant poster board. Your assignments are going to be sent out next week. So the assignments will tell you, where, what poster number you are and what session you're going to be delivering your poster presentations. Posters can be no larger than 4 feet by 3 feet, and that is 4 feet in length and 3 feet in width. You can find all the presentation guidelines on the ERN website. And here's the link to that place where you can get it. And this slides will be shared later, so you can get the link from there, or maybe someone's going to be dropping it in the chat for you. A couple other poster presentation things, some important dates that you should keep in mind. Like I said, next week your assignments will be sent out. The poster sessions are going to start on Friday, March 15th. 7 a.m. to 7:45 is this poster setup for sessions 1 and 2. So if you're assigned to session 1 or session 2, you should go between 7 and 7:45 and actually physically put your poster on the poster board. This is a really nice thing because a lot of times people want to come and preview the poster before you're actually presenting. So it would be very important for you to have your poster up and available. And then you can see the first session is from 10 to 12, and then the second session is from 4 to 6:30. Saturday, again, 7:30 to 8 will be the poster session setup. 8 to 10:30 is session 3, and 11 to 12:30 is session 4. And then on Saturday evening is a very exciting gala and banquet, which is lots of fun. And that's when we'll be, of course, presenting all the awards as well. So that means the judges will be busy on Saturday afternoon trying to make these tough decisions of who gets the awards. A couple other important dates. So there's going to be a virtual student orientation for all registered students, not just presenters, on Monday, March 4th at 4 to 5 Eastern. And then there will be a student orientation and networking on site on Thursday, March 14th between 4 and 5:30. So that's right before all of the big activities get started. And you can check in the WHOVA app for the room numbers. And in case you know someone who is also going to be doing an oral presentation, I'm going to be delivering a webinar on March 5th at 11:30 Eastern. So you can let them know, and we welcome them to come in to do that. So with that, I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions.
I don't see any in the chat, but feel free to put it in the chat or just come off of mute and ask your question if you have any. So I did want to mention, thanks so much, Marianne. Awesome job. Thank you so much for these awesome, amazing tips that, and I also put this in the chat, are definitely transferable and applicable, not only to posters, but presentations in general. We will be launching by end of next week, be on the lookout for, our registration for the March 5th webinar that Dr. Leung is doing for oral. So we will be launching that sometime by the end of next week. Also by the end of next week, we will be sharing the slides and the recording of this to everyone that registered, and also be on the lookout in the next week or two for the Zoom registration for our student orientation that we will be holding on March 4th. So I saw a question, can we bring a guest to the banquet? No. The ERN registration fee is $500. If you are a travel awardee, I covered that cost. So the registration fee actually covers all of the plenary meals. So anybody that would want to attend would need to pay that registration fee, and we close registration in early January because we are at capacity for the ERN conference. So you cannot bring a guest. Any other questions for Dr. Leung? Great job, great job.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions, so definitely please, before you leave, definitely complete the survey that you will receive. And I don't have that to put in the chat, but definitely be on the lookout to complete the survey. These surveys really help guide us and let us know if what we are doing are helping you or beneficial. So we definitely need you all to complete the surveys. Again, follow us on social media, like share with your colleagues, share with the world if you are presenting your research at the ERN conference, or if you are just attending the ERN conference, share that on our social media platforms. We have our ERN conference Twitter page, as well as share on LinkedIn, and feel free to use our hashtag ERN2024. So if there are no questions, thanks again to our awesome speaker, and I look forward to seeing you all at ERN if you are attending. And again, congrats on being accepted to present your research if you are. If you are not presenting research at ERN, congrats on being able to attend. And again, best wishes on your future efforts. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Oh,
Was there a question?
I thought someone raised their hand, but
Let me see. Was there a question?
it went back down. It went up and it's off now.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it. Was there a question? Oh, okay. Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Maria.
Bye. Nice to see everyone. Hope to see you at the conference.
Okay, bye.